Welcome back. This is the Network Berg, and in this lecture we'll be going over tunneling on MikroTik devices, specifically stuff like VPN tunneling and PPPoE. There's so many different types of services that MikroTik allows you to provide to customers, and this is something that you might see in the ISP space. If you're an ISP and you're delivering services, you might have clients connecting over PPPoE, and this is a great tutorial just to kind of show you what is happening. How do ISPs do this? And it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get into the video. Alrighty. I've got a little EVE-NG topology here, and the best place that I can think of us to begin is with PPPoE. It's one of the oldest services around. Customers have been using it for stuff like dial-up, for stuff like ADSL, and even on their fiber to the home connections, you'll still see PPPoE, and it's such a powerful service. And in essence, what PPPoE does is it is a means that allows a customer to connect a cable or something on the layer 2. So they'll connect the cable, and a PPPoE protocol will then allow them to connect to their ISP and connect to a PPPoE server, and then from that server they'll be able to negotiate details like what their username and password is, and then the server would look at those details and say, okay, cool, you are who you say you are, we'll provide you with this service. So you're authenticated. Here is an IP address that you can use, sir or madam, and now enjoy your internet. And that is kind of the gist how PPPoE works. I'm not going to go too deep into all of the different mini things like the PPPoE packets and all of that stuff. I'll put a link in one of the comments where you can read up about it. But we'll just be looking at configuring a PPPoE server as well as configuring the clients in this video. So let's start doing that. First things first, I just want to get on this router 1, which will be our PPP server. So I'm just going to connect to that now. Alrighty, so let's head in Winbox, and then from here I'll connect onto my neighbor. And let's just quickly discuss the package for PPP. So if we look at our menus, we've got a PPP menu, and this is a system package. So before you can enable any type of PPP services, you need to make sure the package is running. It does run by default, so it's very rare that it might be disabled, but just something to take note of. If we head into the PPP menu, we can see there's a bunch of different things we can configure. There's stuff like your interfaces, PPPoE servers, and then there's these other buttons here at the bottom, like a PPTP server, SSTP server, L2TP server, OVPN server, each having their specific needs and requirement and niches. But that is where you can go to configure these services. With the PPP, there's a few things you need to keep in mind. You do have things called profiles, and you do have things called secrets. Think of the secrets as the username and password that you configure for the service, and your profile, think of this as the thing that the users will be connecting against. So think of this as having the settings that the users will be using, which will enable them or allow them to effectively connect onto that service. I want to just go into something before we set up a profile and secret, and that is namely point-to-point addressing or tunnel addressing. So I might just open up something like Notepad++ quickly. I wonder if I can zoom in here, because I'd like us to just quickly, briefly talk about subnetting. Let's see, zoom. There we go, we can zoom in. All right, so what I want us to do is we need to configure IP addressing between our server and client. And typically, the smallest IP or subnet that you can use is a /30 network. So let's just, for example, say I use 10.1.2.0/30 for my first config. And then I know 10.1.2.1 could be my server, 10.1.2.2 could be my client, and then 10.1.2.3 is your broadcast. So this is not something you configure, just like how 10.1.2.0 is going to be your network address. Now we have 4 IPs here, and the network and broadcast addresses are actually very wasteful, because maybe we have a limited amount of IPs that we want to assign, or we don't want to assign /30s for every single PPP service that we deliver, because that is actually very wasteful, because if we have a lot of customers, it's going to consume your IP addressing up so much. So since network engineers are so smart, they developed a special subnet. So we've got /32, which is a single host. And then we've got /30, which is 2 hosts, but it's got the network and broadcast address. Now this cool mechanism that we figured out is a /31 network. So this is just a network and broadcast address. But what is happening in this event is the hosts actually occupy the space of the network and broadcast address. The network doesn't need to know that there's a network, and it's not ever going to use that broadcast address because there's only 2 clients. So whenever we use a /31 network, we don't actually put in the IP address as 10.1.2.1/31. That's not what you're going to do when you configure the IP addressing. You actually just configure it as that's your address. And then with MikroTik, you've got a network field, and then in your network field, you can actually put in the remote side IP. So I'll just quickly do that on a MikroTik just to explain how you'd set up the addressing if you're statically doing that. But we're going to be dynamically doing that with the profiles. But let's add an address so you can see how a /31 network actually works. So what we can do is 10.1.2.1, or we can even make it .0 if we want to. So 10.1.2.0 is the server, and 10.1.2.1 is the remote side, and that is a /31 network. It works just fine, and it's just between 2 clients. So there's nothing else on the network. Imagine this was just a direct cable in one client going to a different server or something, 2 machines that's directly connected with each other. All right, so that is a /31 or point-to-point addressing. And then what we want to do is we want to create a profile for our PPPoE. I do recommend creating profiles per service because the profile allows you to specify certain settings like the IP addressing, and if you want to add stuff like filters and lists and whatnot, you can do that through the profile. But the important bits in the profile, I'd say, just give it a name so you know what it is for. So let's just call this the PPPoE profile. Our local address. So this is the IP address that my server will have, and I do recommend statically putting that in. So I'll use that 10.1.2. Let's make it .0 and see if this works. So that is the local address. And then our remote address, if this was just to a single client, I could fill this in like such, and that would be fine. But if I'm using PPPoE, I'm probably going to be delivering the service to multiple customers, not just the one. So in this event, I might actually just do the good old switcheroo, and I'll go and create an IP pool. So similar to DHCP that uses a pool to assign to the clients, PPPoE can also use an IP pool to assign IPs from that pool. So here I've already got a pool created, but let's just delete that, create a new pool, and we can call this our PPPoE pool. We can set the addresses. So we want to assign anything from 10.1.2. Let's say .1 up to 10.1.2.255. Let's do that and see how well this works. Let's just apply that. So that's the IP addressing that it will use. And then what we can do is in our remote address in the profile, we can actually specify the pool. So now it will use that pool and assign IPs from that pool whenever somebody connects. I'm not going to tweak any of these other settings, but as you see, there are tabs that do have some extra uses that you can put in. There's stuff like you can put in a session timeout, so how long the people can connect until it needs to reconnect. You can use queues for some QoS stuff, and here's some scripts that you can also run. Let's apply this. And now we've got a profile. So this profile is what we will use for our secrets. Again, the secrets is just a username and password that we're configuring that the remote side can use to connect with. So in this case, I'll set up something called client1. It will be the username. Their password will be 123456. And the service, I can set it to a specific service. So I can make it any. So if there were multiple services, that client would be able to connect with any of those services. But it is pretty, let's say, insecure to do that. So make sure that you set your service as well. So let's say this is PPPoE. And caller ID, you can specify that as a specific MAC or IP address, but we'll just leave that blank in this instance. And now we can select our profile. So I can say this is PPPoE profile. I can also inject routes to the client, or I can see various other things here. Let's just apply this secret. So now we have a secret that is set to a specific profile. And then what we can do now is we can actually enable the service. So let's go to our PPPoE servers, and we can see there's no servers running currently. And if I click on the plus, We can actually set up multiple servers for the PPPoE. So if you want to use multiple different interfaces, this is how you can use it. But we're going to do a bit of a cheat, and we're going to bridge some of our interfaces together and then use the bridge to connect with. But for this, let's just quickly set Ether2 so we can connect to our first client here, the client 1. And we can also specify details like the MTU, MRU, keep alive timeout. And here we need to set our profile. So I might set a profile like the PPPoE profile here. And you could set like 1 session per host, so people can't use the same username and password to log in multiple times from different locations. So that's something you can tick. And I'll apply this. We can leave the rest of the settings the same. Actually, let's just give it the name PPPoE as well, or PPPoE1. All right, great. Now we've got our interfaces here. So if a client does authenticate with the PPPoE, it will create a dynamic interface on MikroTik. You can also see that in your interfaces tab here. And if you wanted to make that interface static, you could maybe just double click it, copy it, save it, and then you could do multitudes of different things with those interfaces. But let's just get the client to connect to the server now. So we've got a PPPoE server. It's active, it's running. It's running on Ether2 at the moment. So we need to configure router 2. So router 2, I'm just quickly going to enable Ramon on this device and the server so I can configure through Winbox. So let's just do tool Ramon set enabled yes. And I'm just quickly doing this so that we can actually get onto the device. So Ramon, let's just enable that. Let me open up a new Winbox session, connect to Ramon, and then I should see that router there. I do, so let's connect to it. So this is the router 2. And if we want to configure a PPP client, we can go to PPP and we can click on the plus, or you could do it from your interfaces as well. It is there, and there's a PPPoE client. So let's add a client, and we could call this maybe to ISP. We can select which interface the PPPoE client is going to connect over. So in my diagram, it's Ether1. So I'm going to connect onto Ether1. Then we get some dial out settings. So the important settings here for me is your username, which was client1, and our password, which was 123456. We don't need to set any profile here because we're not using any profile on the client side. And just like the WAN DHCP client, we can specify stuff like use the peer DNS, add default route, all that good bits. And then we get stuff like the status interface, and I'm going to show you the status in a bit from the server side as well. But let's just apply this. Maybe let's just see if we do a PPPoE scan and we start that on Ether1, does it pick anything up? It does. So it picks up there is a PPPoE1 service and what its MAC address is. So fantastic. All right, so let's apply this. And then we can see there is a 2-ISP. It's actually connected already, and it is the PPPoE client. We can see what MTU the interface is as well. If I double click on this and I go to my status, I can see it's connected, what the uptime is, and here are the important bits. The local address is the IP address that's been assigned to me, so 10.1.2.255, which is weird because that's usually a broadcast address, right? And the remote address is 10.1.2.0. So what I'm going to do is from my client, let's just open up a terminal window and see, can I ping 10.1.2.0? I can ping it. So if I can ping it, it obviously means that I could route to it. I can see that it does have a default route that has been created. It might not have any breakout at the moment because I haven't set up any natting. So let's just quickly do that as well, just for interest's sake, to see if full internet is working. So I'm not going to add any special type of natting. It's just a masquerade rule for traffic that's leaving over the Ether1 to be masqueraded. And this is now on our provider router. Let's go back to the client. And now I can break out. I can get to the internet. This is amazing. All right, so we've effectively provided a PPPoE service to a single customer. Let's just quickly provide it to multiple customers. So what I'm going to do is, oh wait, before we do that, I also just wanted to show you the interface from the server side. So that is to ISP. This is our server. So on the server, you can see there's the interface, and it did create that dynamic interface. And as I said, you can copy this and just save it again, and then it will create a server binding. And from here, you can typically see again what your addressing details is, what the service is, and which interface it was on. All right, perfecto. So let's add multiple clients. And in my topology, I can see Ether 3 and Ether 4 is also connected to my router 1, but I only have the one service, and I only want to keep the one service running. I don't want to add multiple services because for me that's a bit messy to add a server for each interface. So what I could potentially do is I'm just going to add a bridge. I can call this bridge 1, or let's just call it PPPoE bridge. And then in my ports, I know that Ether 2, Ether 3, and Ether 4 should belong to this bridge. So these ports have been added to the bridge. And now if I go back to my services, you can see it's saying service is not, it's not allowed on a slave. So let's just quickly set this interface to PPPoE bridge, apply that, and now it works just fine. So now with our topology, all three of these interfaces are kind of in a bridge, and we can use PPPoE on any of the clients connecting. So let's just configure the PPPoE on router 3 and router 4. And this will be quick. We'll just quickly do it from the command line. So admin blank. Hey, we forgot something. I need to navigate back to my server because I haven't created any user credentials for client 2 and 3 yet. So let's just add them some services. So I'll hit the plus, I'll call this client 2, and that will be their username. Their password will be 654321. Their service will be PPPoE, and I'll use the PPPoE profile, apply this, and then let's just jump back to our client. So I'm just going to do a interface PPPoE client add. Let's give it a name to ISP. Let's give it the user is client 2. Password was 654321. And anything else we want to set? Let's just make sure it's not disabled. So let's just say disabled no. And we need to specify our interface as well. So the interface in this case is also just Ether 1, because if I look at my topology, it's Ether 1 on all of the routers that's connecting back to my server. So let's hit enter. And then if I do a interface print, we can see there's the 2 ISP. And I'm not seeing any connection yet. Let's just do an interface PPPoE client export. So that looks right to me. Let's just go to our server quickly. And from our server, let's see, there's no interface. I have selected the bridge for my PPPoE. The user credentials are correct. So client 2, let's just make it 644321 again. And let's just go back and try and connect. All right, it connected. It just took a while actually. So let's just see that interface. If I do a interface PPPoE client print detail, we can actually see all of the details. And I'd like to just do an IP address print. So there's the IP addressing that's been assigned. So my IP address is 10.1.2.254 now, not 255, but my network is still 2.0. And if I do an IP route print, I'm not getting a default route now because I didn't set that on the secret, but let's just add a default route manually. So let's do IP route add destination 0000/0, and the gateway will be 10.1.2.0. And let's see, can I ping out? Ping 8888. Yes, I can. Awesome. And just for that last bonus, let's just quickly configure client 3. And remember, we do need that username and password for them as well. So let's just configure as a secret. And let's call this super cool customer. And their password is 123456789. They are PPPoE. They're also on the PPPoE profile. I'll apply that. Actually, let's just, let's apply that. And I'm going to jump back to my router 4. Admin blank, no. So let's add the PPPoE Client, interface, PPPoE Client, add, name, super ISP, interface is Ether1, user is super cool client. I think that's what we made it. Super cool customer, sorry. Super cool customer. Our password was 123456789. And let's just make sure it's not disabled. So disabled, no. And let's hit OK. And let's see if I do an IP address print. I've actually received an IP, and the IP address I've received is 10.1.2.253. Awesome. Let's just quickly add the route out as well. IP route add, destination is 0000. Gateway is 10.1.2.0. And if I ping out, it's failing. Let's just quickly see, is my routing there? IP route print. Oh, I made an oopsie. I only routed out .0, so I didn't make it the /0. So now we should actually have internet out. All right, so that wraps up the lesson. This is how we can configure PPP services, and specifically PPPoE. In the next lecture, we'll be looking at stuff like PPTP and SSTP. So thank you for watching the video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.